How are you?
A todos.
¡Wow! Muy bien.
Ok. En inglés, pero un poco de español.
Ahora volvemos a inglés, ¿no? Okay.
Sí, gracias.
Elizabeth, I love this kind of talks. We had one not long ago in Barcelona. It was very nice. And I love it because you get to explain me a lot of interesting things you are doing at Lightning Labs, and also that you think about what's happening in Bitcoin. So I'm really looking forward for this talk. And yeah, first of all, how do you see Bitcoin? Because last year we met here and we were talking before getting on stage, and we got to this conference. Meanwhile, FTX was imploding. The price of Bitcoin was going down to 15K, and of course we're builders. We don't mind that so much, but of course the atmosphere was quite dark. And yeah, we are in 1 year later, and how do you see everything?
A lot's happened in a year. Well, first of all, it's so great to be back here in Argentina. There's so much energy, enthusiasm, and excitement among the community. And then also, by the way, you and I first met in Berlin in 2019 at the Lightning Conference there.
Yeah, that was great.
Lots of progress since then. So yeah, it's been quite a year in the world of Bitcoin and Lightning. As we were here at the BitConf last year, as you mentioned, we saw the fall of FTX. You know, there was a lot of uncertainty. You know, people, some of them had been losing faith. Now, we in this community had not, because we know that, you know, Bitcoin is incredibly resilient. It is strong. You know, the Bitcoin blockchain, every 10 minutes on average, you know, there's a new block. Bitcoin is incredibly reliable, which is part of what makes it so great and so powerful. Just a couple weeks ago, we had the birthday of Bitcoin, 15th anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. And I was like, how has it been 15 years already? That has gone by so quickly. So things are looking very different today in a positive way. So as folks know, the halving of Bitcoin, so the point at which you have half of the amount of Bitcoin that miners receive, which means that the new Bitcoin on the market is cut in half, is happening in about April of 2024. There's always this question of whether the halving is priced in. We know that the halving always brings lots of interest, excitement, developers, people really flock to Bitcoin. We've seen new ideas, more creativity, you know, excitement in the community, people building. I've thought of it broadly as this idea of both back to Bitcoin. Now, those of us that have been working on, you know, Bitcoin and Lightning, we know that Bitcoin's actually been here the whole time, and it's so trustworthy and reliable. But there's increased and renewed interest in what people are building, in new concepts, new ideas, and broadly, what I've been seeing is this concept and an idea that I came up with of the Bitcoin Renaissance. Meaning, we now have an opportunity, and Taproot, I know we're gonna have a panel on that later, has actually enabled new and interesting use cases. We're building some of those at Lightning Labs. Better privacy, better, you know, contracts on Bitcoin, more opportunities and ways to build. And if you contrast with, you know, what happened a year ago, well, it's actually a really good thing to weed out the bad actors in our community, right? So I'm from US. There was recently a trial. People may have seen what happened, but it turns out, you know, some people are just gonna be criminals. We saw this. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a separate protocol. It's doing its thing, and we'll get the bad actors out of our community and then bring the positive developments around financial freedom and building new use cases for the world. And being here, back in Latin America, you know, back in Argentina, this is a place that needs this technology, right? So much from what I can tell, and I'm talking to the community and meeting people from here. You've had over 100%, I think almost 150% inflation since we were here about a year ago. You know, there's great demand. There was a report recently on Bitcoin adoption and how it's been going up and up here in Argentina. Obviously, people want access to stable coins as well. They want stable stores of value. They want alternatives. And we're here building that and bringing freedom to folks here in Argentina and broader Latin America.
That was great. This conference is special, and we know also we like to organize really fun conferences in the Latin world, I would say. But also it's special because it's not Bitcoin only. We meet a lot in Bitcoin only conferences. This one it's not. And probably there is some people listening to us and they heard something about Lightning. Lightning has been around for a while, And yeah, they felt like it was something to do cooler things on Bitcoin. Maybe they don't know what. So I wanted to ask you if you can do like an intro to Lightning, and also if we can start talking about Taproot assets, because there was such a big release, important release for you, like 2-3 weeks ago, and that can enable some of the things that some of these people maybe found Bitcoin boring, and maybe now they can start thinking again about it.
We're in the Renaissance right now, so it's by definition not boring, at least as far as I'm concerned. But
okay.
Show of hands, how many people here have ever used Lightning or familiar? Okay, all right. I like it. So we've got a lot of hands, but for those that haven't raised their hands, we're going to get you guys onboarded. There are some incredible Lightning companies based here in Argentina. Definitely check out Moon Wallet. Ripio has a Lightning integration, and we've seen a lot of progress in the community. I believe Lemon also integrated Lightning, so there are a number of options for you to use it. But for those that are less familiar, Lightning is a layer 2 network on top of Bitcoin, so it's a protocol that uses the Bitcoin blockchain. It's decentralized. No one controls Lightning to enable instant high-volume transactions with low fees. So the idea is you don't have to go to the blockchain, the Bitcoin chain, for every transaction. Instead, you can get onto the Lightning network via the Bitcoin blockchain. You can have one transaction, or depending upon how you're using it, and then you can pay a fee with that, and then you can transact an unlimited number of times on Lightning. And then if you want to get your funds back on the Bitcoin chain, which you don't necessarily need to, because so many people here, accept Lightning, they're using Lightning. I was just chatting with Juan Pablo from Krypton Market, telling me about how he has 500 stores around here that are accepting it. You can do so on the Lightning network. So you've got this protocol on top of Bitcoin. It's decentralized. Anybody can build a version of Lightning. We at Lightning Labs have built our version called LND. Anyone can build an application on top of it. People cannot stop it. It's this open, decentralized protocol. So it's really, the idea being, it's the Bitcoin transaction layer that enables people to do things like, cross-border payments, high-volume payments, micropayments, small value. You can send, a couple US cents, many thousands of times per second. And with Lightning, you open up all of these new possibilities. So today, for those of you that have used Lightning, you've sent Bitcoin over Lightning. Right, we've seen a lot of growth in that. Shout out to River. Alex, the CEO, who's a good friend of mine, will be on the next panel on businesses on Lightning. They've been doing research reports, and they recently released a report that said that the Lightning network has grown at least 1,212%. So that's well over 1,000% in the last 2 years. And in fact, it's likely grown even more because they only counted certain transactions. So we've seen a huge amount of growth on the Lightning network. In fact, I was here in Argentina last year for LabBitConf, but I was actually in El Salvador the prior year. So 2 years ago, we've just seen an explosion of people using Lightning, of use cases, and Latin America has really played a major role in adoption of this technology. So we've seen more use cases, more companies emerging, more developers building on Lightning, and that's with the Bitcoin side of Lightning, which is obviously a huge advancement. But enter this concept of Taproot assets and what we're calling multi-asset Bitcoin and Lightning. So we at Lightning Labs developed a protocol, and we put it out to the community, and people gave feedback, and they're kind of sending, also people are contributing to the code base. And the idea is, well, what if, on the Bitcoin blockchain, we issued assets, and we've seen some other assets on the Bitcoin chain, and I don't know if folks are familiar with what happened, say, earlier this year, where the blockchain was clogged up, and there were super high fees, and then people couldn't get a lot of transactions in there, and in fact, that resulted in other people using Lightning or integrating Lightning because the chain was clogged. But at a high level, you need efficient protocols. So what if we created a protocol that enabled you to issue assets on Bitcoin, where it didn't clog up the blockchain, where it was efficient, and then you could take those assets and send them over Lightning, right? So that's Taproot assets. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Lugano. There was this Plan B conference. I don't know if anybody here made it there. And the Tether team was organizing that event along with quite a few others in Lugano, Switzerland. And the idea is, okay, now we can issue, on-chain with the release you mentioned, it was October 18th, so recently, assets on the Bitcoin chain with this protocol. But very soon, and we're hard at work on this, my team, really amazing developers, my co-founder, Lalo Roastbeef, is the fastest talker you have ever encountered. Even for a native English speaker, he's the brains behind it all. The idea is that you can then have, say, USDT or stable coins on Lightning, and you have instant transactions, low fees, and you can have highly scalable transactions. So as an end user, I can send, say, a couple dollars, and the fee could be, 1 cent or less than a cent in order to do so, right? And this is all using the security of the Bitcoin network and the decentralization of the network. And then you also have the Lightning component where when you're sending, say, an asset on Lightning using this protocol, you route through Lightning nodes with Bitcoin. So at a high level, you're actually using Bitcoin to send dollars. And I've called this Bitcoinizing the dollar, Bitcoinizing fiat, because actually Bitcoin can both secure and then underlie transactions. Bitcoin becomes a global routing currency that can connect all sorts of global transactions. And really, its decentralization is key to enabling this. And by the way, when I was in Lugano and was chatting with people there about what people are doing with stablecoins, today they're using other protocols, something like a Tron. And why are people using Tron for stablecoins? Well, the fees are low and it's fast. But what they don't know is this is a highly centralized protocol, right? There are actors that could just raise the fees, as I believe they did, and say, shut things down. People don't know, they want decentralization sometimes until it's too late, right? We saw that with something like an FTX, where many people lost their money because they just held it at an exchange, and then some guy came along and stole $8 billion or more, right? So with Bitcoin, you get the decentralization of this protocol. You have the stability of the most secure blockchain with the most hash power, mining power backing it up. It's time tested, it's incredible. The 3rd of January coming up very soon, it will be the 15th anniversary of the launch of the network. Really incredible. That it's just been, so resilient and strong. We were chatting earlier, Luna, we went outside, it's finally sunny out, about the number of times people have declared Bitcoin dead. Right, the media, journalists, it started years and years ago, and Bitcoin dies like every couple of days, and guess what? It's a zombie. It just constantly returns from the dead. And it's still very alive and here today. So, high level, this idea of multi-asset Bitcoin and Lightning will enable people, the next release or two will have the Lightning component to send assets, stable coins, over the Lightning network with all the benefits of Bitcoin and not having to rely on something that's going to be centralized and might work today, but who knows if it'll work tomorrow.
And I believe that one very interesting point of having multi-assets on Lightning might be thinking about, for example, stablecoins, the atomic swaps, that you can do without a problem and very easily, natively, between these assets and Bitcoin, no? So you enable markets that probably we cannot imagine right now.
Exactly. So it's actually possible with the protocol. I could send in dollars. If somebody wanted to create a peso stablecoin, that would be interesting, right? You could do a swap. Of course, they would use the real rates, right? And you could receive in Bitcoin or vice versa. And, people want stablecoins. Today, on Tether alone, I believe they're like 85 billion US dollars. At USDC, something like 24 billion. This is in major demand globally. And that value should be transacting on Bitcoin. And I believe we will see a lot of it shift over soon enough. Globally, we've seen these issuers of stablecoins, they hold, and people are familiar with treasuries, like United States government bonds. They hold more today than Germany and South Korea. Like major nation states have less in these US treasuries than stablecoin issuers do. This has become, in terms of the global macro significance, a big deal. And Bitcoin is poised to play a major role in facilitating and enabling this. But, so let's say, I'm a user and, my currency is inflating. And by the way, why should it be the case, we were just chatting about this earlier, that because I'm born in a country where the central bank, has had bad monetary policy, where I've had significant inflation, that I should be at a disadvantage to people that are born in a country where, they have a stable currency, right? To me, this concept and what we're building with Bitcoin and Lightning, we should render that obsolete. We should make it, and we are making it so that it doesn't matter where you're born in the world, that everyone should have equal access, that, you shouldn't be beholden to the bad monetary policies of a government, and that you should be able to, grow, maintain your wealth and grow it, right? So that's part of what is so significant of what we're doing here with multi-asset Lightning. And then, so let's say somebody comes along and they have some, say, dollars, a stable coin on Lightning. Well, they might not own any Bitcoin yet, but now maybe they've learned a little bit about it. They say, okay, let me put some portion of my savings in Bitcoin, have some dollars. Obviously, there has been inflation in USD lately as well, not nearly as much as some other places. And then they can, learn about Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin, and it becomes seamless to go between the assets in terms of, say, exchanges or wallets or various folks that are building on this. And to me, that's significant, because what it means is we can bring in a whole class of users. And here in Latin America, you have so many people with mobile phones, you have so many developers, builders, people that are, connected, they want to get on and, store their value and money in a way that's going to be global and accessible. So they can get the stablecoin part, and then we will bring them into Bitcoin, thus ushering in this, great renaissance and ability of users to adopt Bitcoin.
I love this talk we're having, also followed by planes. But I love our talk because we're talking about 15 years of Bitcoin's white paper, and something is coming to my mind that we said about Bitcoin that is the currency of the internet. And you're working on something that it's a big rabbit hole for me, and I'm really falling down that one, that is artificial intelligence. And maybe for people that is discovering Lightning now, I can put a little bit of FOMO to them, just to say that maybe Lightning is the currency of the AI. What do you have to say about that?
Well, by the way, sometimes people think I just learned about Bitcoin and Lightning, it's late. First of all, it is definitely not too late now, and it's not going to be too late anytime soon. So do not worry if you're just learning now. It's still early. So just want to get that out there. And the example you brought up is, a big part of that. So when I talk about, Lightning use cases and why it's important, there are two classes of use cases I usually, refer to. The first is access for those who didn't have it, or, opening up greater access, especially on the global level, especially in emerging markets. Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia are major areas of growth for us and for adoption. So that's, a big part of it. But another part is enabling use cases that weren't previously possible. And that really gets to the Internet of Money, right? So today, if you want to use, at least in the US, and a lot of our payment systems are pretty backward, if you want to send, say, a cent or less than 1 US cent, you just can't do it. And especially if you want to send it, many times per second. And well, why would you want to do that if you're a human? Well, maybe you're not a human. Maybe you're, a machine or an AI agent, right? So some of the use cases that weren't previously possible that Lightning enables even today is for, humans or AIs to transact with each other. So there's a protocol we build, and shout out to Roast Beef, my co-founder and our CTO, called L402, which is named after the internet error code for what's called payment required. Back in the early 90s, the creators of the internet envisioned that there would be a way to pay natively on the web. But turns out the technology just wasn't there yet, and we needed something like Lightning to emerge to make that possible. But today, with this protocol, you can actually send Satoshis, right, the lowest denomination of Bitcoin, natively, say, to an AI agent or an API, and you don't need a username or an account. Because you've sent the money, the agent knows that it received the money, and then it will perform the action. Now, obviously, this is going to be for something digital. If you're not today going to get a physical good out of this, but there are many, digital services, APIs. So in the last couple months, we've seen an AI for All hackathon in the Bitcoin and Lightning community put on by Fedi, Stack, a number of other great companies. And we've seen a lot of very cool developments. And we at Lightning Labs released what's called an integration with an API called LangChain. And if we have any AI developers in the room, this makes it very easy to basically deploy AI agents. So the idea is if you are an AI developer and you're building an agent, well, the agent is not going to have a bank account. No bank is going to give an AI a bank account, right? How is it going to transact? You might need money for server costs or for GPUs or for training an agent. So today, using LangChain, and we released Bitcoin LangChain, and Lightning Network L402, you could actually say use ChatGPT, I'm sure folks have heard of that, via these APIs and integrations and pay Satoshis with this protocol and then receive a result. Because if you want to use ChatGPT today, it takes credit cards. A lot of people don't have access to international credit cards. They might turn the credit cards down. This is an alternative for not just ChatGPT, but all sorts of new AI applications to be able to natively pay on the internet. Once you've paid, the AI has received this payment and then can transact. And then an agent can pay, for services. Maybe you have an AI assistant that'll book your travel or do all sorts of things. So today we're enabling Lightning works with Bitcoin. Soon it'll be multi-asset. This idea that because Bitcoin is decentralized, it is the currency of AI. We've seen folks like Lynn Alden, Arthur Hayes write about this recently, and Lightning is powering the future by being the protocol to enable developers to build AI applications and for both humans and agents to transact with Bitcoin and Lightning. So basically, this is the Bitcoin Renaissance, and we're building the future with Lightning.
Thank you very much. It was, as always, a great pleasure to hear you.
We had so much more to discuss, but I'll have to come back next year. Gracias a todos.